Can you send me your YouTube channel, or is it just the same as your name?
Sure, I'll send it to you. Where are you at? Your Framer X?
Yeah.
It's not a big channel or anything, but I just do it for fun.
Yep, that's fine. Alright.
I just don't know if it's going live right now. How do I
Yeah, I
check
don't
that?
see it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Hold on. Give me a moment. I could have sworn it should be working. Let's see here, hold on. Yeah, it looks like it's working. Hang tight.
There might be a delay on my end. Unless you have the video on unlisted or private.
It may be on private, yeah. Hold on. I gotta sign in with my shit. Let's see, go live. It's gotta be in here somewhere. Oh yeah, it is set to private. So here we go. Publish that. That should be public now. All right. Probably should have done that preemptively. Oops. Yeah, all right. That's working for sure. Yeah, that's working. All right, man. So what do you want to debate? Could be
Yeah.
about anything. Hmm? Hello? You there, buddy?
Yep. Hang on. Okay, yeah, it's live.
Okay. Yeah, so what did you want to debate about, buddy?
Are you like who's that one guy who debates a bunch of people? Destiny? He
Mm,
always calls the person Bud
oh, really?
before the debate. Yeah.
Oh. I never even noticed that. I'm sorry. No, I'm not trying to like be like Destiny, but I do like his content. So it may have just like projected onto me, I guess.
Yep. Alright. What about fossil fuel subsidies?
Fossil fuel subsidies. So like you're wondering like if I'm for or against it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm would immediately say I'm against it, but I feel like I'm falling into a trap.
I have research for both sides.
Okay.
It's up to you. You get to
I have
choose.
very little research, so you may be able to beat me on this one.
Alright, then we can do a less niche topic.
Well, we can do this. I don't mind. I don't mind losing a
Well,
debate. That's not the
I don't
problem
want
that
it
I
to be
have.
unfair.
Well, it's
I have a
fine.
question.
It doesn't honestly. It doesn't bother me. Like if I lose a debate like live, it's not a big deal. I'm not intended to be like right all the time. Sometimes I learn something from somebody that's like really interesting. But yeah, I would have to
Alright.
say I'm just generally against like a subsidy by the oil, but I could probably see some merit to it in the sense of like defense budgets, because like I know like oil is directly tied to our ability of defending, and it also like is ties to like the entire existence of like the United States economy. So like without subsidies, you could probably see that there would probably be some issues that would come across. But from a fundamental standpoint, I would probably say that you just don't do subsidies, especially on companies that don't necessarily need it.
Okay, so are you aware that the fossil fuel industry, or oil in general, is a relatively dying industry?
Uh, It's not really. It's a little more
Alright, leave
complicated
search
than
on it.
just like an automatic.
Do you own a farm?
What?
Do you own a farm?
No.
Here's an article from The Guardian.
I own a farm.
Okay, hold on. I'm not going to use like an article from The Guardian to determine whether or not that something is like going to be good. Right?
Well, the contents of the article.
But would
Is
you
the-
use like The Guardian for literally where does the I want the source that The Guardian used, not The Guardian.
Okay, yeah.
It could be like a lobby thing, you know?
Well, like here's the thing. So like the problem is like saying like that the oil industry is just going to be like going down. Is implies that the company is not smart enough to realize that they need to like invest into like new areas, which I guarantee you they are smart enough to invest in new areas. So like to say that they're not or that they never will do that, I think that's pretty foolish. I think that you're going to see oil companies start investing in biofuels, which I know ExxonMobil is doing that. Like as I'm actually a stockholder in ExxonMobil. That's actually one of the primary reasons why I invested in Exxon.
Okay. I'm getting some more
Honestly,
statistics
oil
for
is
you.
not really the problem. The problem is natural gas. They're producing way too much and they can't house it correctly. So they're losing money. They're just burning the fuel off.
In natural gas?
Yeah, it's pretty shitty.
I mean, I don't know
They-
anything about it, I guess. I don't know much about it.
'cause
I'll be the
most of
first
these
to
oil
admit to you if I don't
companies-
know something. Don't worry, I'm not like a bad faith actor where I would just be like always have to be right. Um,
Yeah, you're fine.
I'll freely admit I'm wrong.
Oil is they produce a lot, but you can store oil. It's not a problem to store it. Natural gas on the head, they have to pretty much use it right away because there's no real way to store it. It's not cost efficient.
Doesn't gas have a shelf life?
No, if you have it in a container, no.
I don't know about that.
Well, it probably does, but you can, you know, stockpile for a long time.
Wait,
Oh,
you
like-
just changed your thought process by just me questioning it.
No, because you're right. It is chemical, so it does have shelf life. Everything does.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it has a shelf life, but I could be wrong. I could be like completely. I don't know.
If, you know, you're probably no. You're right. It does, but I don't know how long it does. Like I know with gas that you use from the pump stations,
Mm-hmm.
it lasts for like 10 years, and then it starts to go bad.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know
So
how.
I know everything does have it.
Yeah, it's got to have a shelf life. I mean, that would kind of just make sense, right? But so you're saying like the oil
5
companies
years.
are going to go down, right? Like he was saying that, and or like that it's a dying industry. And I just said that,
Yeah.
well, biofuels. So what's your like? Do you have anything to say about that?
Biofuels?
Yeah. Or
Like-
like entering into new industries. Like companies do this
Like
all the
nuclear
time.
energy or
Well, like companies do this all the time where they like enter into a new industry when they realize that their industry is not so good anymore. They realize that there's going to be a problem in the future. So they like try to diversify their portfolio to be able to get more like value out of their shareholders.
but wouldn't the transition between that do you think that would guarantee sustainability?
Not
When we-
always,
when
but if
majority-
you have good
And how do we
business sense,
cope,
then
how do we
yes.
compensate with the auto industry running on majority of fossil fuel?
Hmm? What do you mean?
You put gasoline into your car to power it. So it's
Mhm.
not just one industry that would be transitioning. It's multiple, including electricity and heat. The majority of the economy relies on fossil fuel directly or indirectly. 8% of the economy, I think global economy relies on fossil fuel. By not subsidizing it, what do you think is going to happen to the price of gasoline? Because there's no longer getting tax breaks, which means they're going to have to take what they were previously getting in subsidies and tax breaks
Wait,
and put it into the price of gasoline.
do you think
which
that
would make the
gas
price
is
of-
being subsidized?
I think fossil fuel is being subsidized.
Where did
And I
you get
think
that?
Where did I get that?
Yeah.
That fossil fuel is being subsidized?
Yeah.
This is a known fact, but if you need me to go and get some statistics or research, I can give you some.
I only asked that question because I know that there exists like one of the things that like economists constantly gripe about is like the common negative externality that is caused by the fossil fuels. Specifically, when the price of gas goes down, this means that more people are going to drive, and as a result, results in like higher pollution. So what they do is they try to curb this type of situation by introducing taxes on gas. And as of right now, we do have like taxes, not only state but federal taxes on gas, especially with like ethanol, which ethanol is like a requirement, and it was like proposed by that was like a law that was passed.
All right. So conservative estimates put U.S. direct subsidies to the fossil fuel industry at roughly $20 billion per year.
Conservative
So, yeah.
estimates put it at okay, $20
And
billion
that's
a year. Then
from
why is it being
the
taxed?
Environmental and Energy Study Institute.
Wait, then why is it being taxed?
Huh?
It's being taxed. So why is it why? Why would you subsidize and then tax?
What's being taxed? Sorry,
The
my internet's
gas. Gas is being taxed.
Gasoline itself,
Yeah.
but the corporations aren't.
What?
There's a sales tax. Sorry, my internet's cutting off.
There's a gas tax. I see what you're saying. Like because it's a corporation, the corporation itself is that cost is being passed off to the consumer. Is that what you're saying?
Repeat that?
You're saying that it's a gas tax that's being passed off to the consumer, not to the corporation. The corporation itself is getting a subsidy.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense. That makes more sense because I was like, wait, I thought they're getting taxed.
Oh.
All right. So okay, you're saying that if they don't get subsidized that the economy does worse as a result? That's the argument?
Well, I can't make a statement for the economy. I'd assume that it'd get worse. I'm just saying that there'd be a lot of downsides when making a transition that drastic, especially the amount of industries that rely on fossil fuel. Taking into account that agriculture itself heavily relies on fossil fuel as well. So we could expect to see a price of increase in food, which is an essential resource.
How much is it being subsidized? You said you gave me a number.
$20 billion a year.
$20 billion a year. 20 billion tax or subsidy on gas.
But that's just an estimate. There's other
Yep.
sources that contradict that.
Oh, that's not good.
Well, it's a lower estimate. There's one saying that it's $88 billion a year. And that's from Oil Change International. I'm not sure how credible it is,
let's see here. I'm trying to find information on that actually. Fossil fuel subsidies, impact. Let's see. I'm trying to find this. I'm not finding a lot on gas subsidies so much as I'm finding for new energy subsidies.
What do you mean?
Well, there's a lot of subsidies for like new energy, like, solar and wind, but not so much for gas. But hold on.
Yeah, we subsidize solar a lot more than we do.
Yeah. Let's see. Direct subsidies. Intangible drilling costs reduction. The provision allows companies to deduct a majority of their costs incurred from drilling new wells domestically. Happened in 2017, Trump's proposal. It eliminated tax breaks for intangible drilling costs that would generate $1.5 billion in revenue. Okay, so they're just not taking as much in that, like they were taking more, they're taking less. So it's not really a subsidy, that's more of a tax write-off. Okay. Percentage depletion. Depletion in an accounting method that works much like depreciation, allowing businesses to deduct. Okay, so it's more deduction. So it's not a subsidy. That's just a deduction. The next one, credit for clean coal investment, Internal Revenue Code. These subsidies create a series of tax credits for energy investments, particularly in coal. 2005, Congress authorized $1.5 billion in credits for integrated gasification of combined cycle properties, with $800 million amount reserved specifically for coal projects. In 2008, additional incentives for carbon sequestration were added to the IRC. These included 30% of investment credits, which were made available for gasification projects that sequester 75% of carbon emissions, as well as advanced coal projects that sequester. Okay, so it just sounds like that they're trying to curb the carbon emissions because it's trying to sequester 65% of carbon emissions, basically giving you a credit for emitting less carbon. The next one, this tax credit was created. I mean, let's see here. Okay, so all of these subsidies that I'm looking at.
Are you talking about carbon tax?
Huh? Well, all of these just look to be like not really what I would call a subsidy would be like a direct cash infusion, or like it's not a tax credit because they're already taking money out. So it's not a subsidy, is it? It's just relaxing the current regulations.
The fossil fuel industry with money.
Okay, I just pulled. Okay, can you pull me up the policy that shows me that? Because I can't find it.
Okay.
So I got Vox saying it, right? But Vox is like garbage. I'm not going to use Vox. I would rather see like an actual code of like, an actual, like I can look this up and see that, okay, this is what's happening.
Intangible
hello?
drilling cost.
Hello, how you doing?
26 U.S. Code 263.
I'm good, dude. What about you?
Good.
What are you guys talking about?
We are debating, and I'm recording live, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, no problem. I'll be PC, I guess.
No, I mean you can talk. It's fine. It's open. Anybody can come in and have fun.
Gotcha.
No, so we're talking about the right now he's talking about that, like, what do you think about like the subsidies on gas companies and whether it's right or wrong? And I said I'm not so sure that there are a lot of subsidies for gas, or if there is any. And
I sent you 2 policies.
Oh, you did directly? Okay, cool.
Well, I mean, I'm not a U.S. citizen, so I'm not completely concerned with the issue.
I
but
literally
generally,
grabbed
as a
exactly that.
policy-
Hold on. I literally grabbed exactly this eesi.org, and I can see, and I literally wrote, what are the direct subsidies? I said to you exactly the direct subsidies. So in this article, it is labeling it as a subsidy, but in reality is actually just a tax break, not a subsidy. A subsidy would be like a direct cash infusion that would like bolster their overall wealth.
True.
Right? So it's not like oh, okay, we're going to give you this tax credit. That's not a subsidy. I don't know who calls that a subsidy. I'm not sure why
A subsidy is money insertion. A tax break is not taking money from the company itself. There's no money going in. There's just money not going out, and that's the difference.
Yeah, so like that's kind of my question right now is he's saying that there is a subsidy, but I'm starting to see more and more that there is not a subsidy.
No, it's not a subsidy. I mean, I'm not a U.S. citizen, and I know it's not a subsidy.
Okay, well, maybe he can find something else. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm literally just now looking at this.
I'm looking at
provided
EWG, and what it's saying is that federal subsidies for fossil fuel production in 2015 and 2016 were nearly $15 billion per year.
Okay, here's the thing though. If hold on. If they're saying it's $15 billion a year, I need to see like what is the actual law that shows that they got a subsidy, right? Like I need to see that. If someone says that the subsidy was $15 billion a year and they're using the intangible drilling costs deduction, the percentage depletion, the credit or clean coal investment as a part of that $20 billion, obviously that's not a subsidy. Like I just read it out, right? It's not a subsidy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll provide you the thing that I'm reading right now. I don't know that much about this specific subject, but I'll send you
I mean,
the
me
link.
neither. But it's like
Yeah,
I'm
let's
I'm
go.
good.
Go for
I'm
it.
okay at smelling bullshit.
I mean, why
I'm
is
pretty
why are you
good.
assuming
I don't think it's bullshit. I just gave
why,
you.
why are you assuming
Okay.
bullshit here?
All right.
Uh,
Okay.
is there a reason?
I'll try to rephrase it.
Because if you don't know about it, we need just to move
Well, I don't know
forward
about
with
it. That's
this.
the thing. I don't know
Yeah,
about it.
there
But
you go.
like when people tell me, like they give me just a solid number without actually giving me like, okay, where are these numbers coming from, or how did they come up with this? You know, it's pretty relevant that they are trying to push something,
There's an amount
that they
of
have an
trust that you
ideology to
have to
push.
have in certain institutions just to go
Yeah,
along
like
and
yeah, you
say,
can
oh,
generally
they're
trust like a
probably
government.
telling the truth.
Yeah, well, you can
I'm
generally
not going
trust
to
like a
go and read into the
government's.
exacts of how they got those numbers because
Sure, why not? Why
that's
wouldn't you
it's
do
sort of
that?
I'll admit it's a bit of a gamble, but at the same time, people have credibility in certain institutions,
Okay,
certain
so
ones.
like if you're talking about like an actual government study where it's like it's fully peer reviewed and completely covered, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Okay, you just have to trust it. You know, the chances of them being wrong is literally zilch. But if you're talking about a website like eesi.org, like who is eesi.org? It looks like Environmental and Energy Study Institute. So who are these people? eesi.org, right? So they literally called something that is not a subsidy. Okay, so they have like they pulled the actual statistic, the actual like
This
laws,
credit
which is
provided
helpful.
$12.2 billion to the coal
Yes,
industry from
you just said
2002
it
to
yourself.
2010.
You just said it yourself. It's a credit.
How would a credit not fall under a
Well,
subsidy?
No,
there you go.
no,
No,
it's
it
not.
doesn't. It's
It
not.
doesn't.
It's not. Yeah, it's not a subsidy. Then.
So what do you mean what does he mean when he says credit? Is he meaning like a tax credit, or is he
Yeah, it's
meaning
a
like
tax
something
credit.
about
I
It's a
yeah?
tax
study
credit.
I study accounting, and I know that it's not a subsidy. So
Wait, hold
I
up.
can
Wait,
confirm.
Framer. I'm confused. Wait, how are you defining a subsidy?
Who, me?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoever was
Let's
talking.
go to the
My bad.
The guy
Merriam-Webster
who's an accountant?
subsidy.
Well,
Because I thought subsidies was just resources. It didn't. It could be resources.
okay,
It didn't have to
so
be
okay,
just money.
let's say right that I took let's say if I took like $200 from you a month, right?
Yeah.
And then instead of me, let's say then later on at a later, like I like taxed you, or I took $200 a month for a full year, right? And then it is on January of next year that I said, okay, I'm no longer going to take $200 from you now. Instead, I'm going to take 180. Aren't I generous?
I have a definition,
Like
guys.
that's not a
So,
subsidy. That can never
I have
be
a
a
definition.
subsidy.
A fossil fuel subsidy is any government action that lowers the cost of production, lowers the cost of consumption,
Raise.
or raises the
Yeah.
price received by producers. Do you agree with that definition?
True, but that's an umbrella definition. It's not the actual definition of what a subsidy is. And it depends on the standpoint you're looking from. Whatever, like the way
Is
you
that
want
from
to.
the International Monetary Fund?
I
It's
imagine.
from Wikipedia. It's
I am.
from Wikipedia. The definition he just got because I've already
No, that
done
was from
research.
International Monetary Fund.
I've already done research about subsidies, and this is just an umbrella term. The actual meaning of an actual subsidy, a governmental subsidy, is money insertion, and that's just what it is. That's what the exact meaning of it means, But
Well, I mean,
otherwise,
hold up. It's not. There's not about an exact meaning. It's what we're trying to figure out how we're going to define it in this conversation. And the reason
well,
why, wait, one second. The reason why I wanted to ask this and to clarify this was because there might be some type of tax credit, which is available for for example, an oil subsidy, but then it might not be available for some other type of energy production. I don't know if that's the case, but I'm saying that if there's a tax credit associated with oil production and there isn't a tax credit associated with, let's say, renewable energy production, then that in a way is an incentive-based structure. I'm not saying that's what it exists. I'm saying that if it did exist, that wouldn't that kind of fall under a subsidy?
So like, I
tax.
from what anybody has ever said,
Yeah.
right? Ever, whenever they refer to a subsidy, they generally refer to like a general cash infusion, like money being just given to you, like capital. Okay? If you have been taxing them heavily and then you lower the taxes, that's just a tax, like they're giving them tax write offs. They're not actually giving them subsidies.
No. But okay. So let me try to specify here, right? If you're taxing like a specific in this industry like energy, for example, right? And then for specific sectors of that overall energy industry, you lower the you provide them with more tax credit or tax write-offs, while not necessarily lowering the that burden on other industries, right? It's still an infusion of sorts. And if you don't want to
No.
count and if you don't want to count that as a subsidy because it's not a direct monetary infusion, so to speak, right? Fine, whatever, right? But it's nevertheless a way that government can manipulate what's going on in these industries in a way to incentivize specific production, and that's what we're really concerned about, right?
Um, I
Well,
guess
I mean,
so, but
tax credits are saved as money
I gotta
recoveries,
go.
so
My internet's too
they're
bad.
not actual
have a good day.
capital. They're 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 not actual. Tax credits are not actual capital, but subsidies are. And that the only proof I can give you is that they're saved as recoveries when the government gives
Why
you
not?
tax credits, because
Hold up.
well, I
Wait,
mean
wait.
that's the
What's the
system that I know. That's how companies save their accounts or
No,
whatever
but
they call them
Admiral,
in the U.S.
what's the difference if you secure $40,000 due to
Well,
tax credits versus $40,000 because of federal government infusion, right? Like there is a difference in terms of like functionality, but like in terms of like the end result, you both receive $40,000 to do what you
because no, because taxes are sort of provisions, and so when the government takes off, gives you tax credits, you save another account as a recovery, not as an actual capital going into your company. And so you were supposed to lose the money, but now you still have it. It's not actually like you got new money. It's just your money kept. That's what
Yeah,
it is.
exactly.
It's how it's an accountant standpoint.
no
I
no
can't actually explain this from an
no no
economical standpoint, but that's the only actual legit answer that anyone can give you here.
no. I mean, I think we're talking past each other slightly, right? I understand like the functionality of it, and I understand the functionality of it of like why they're different, right?
Yeah.
But I'm asking, is there really that much of a difference in terms of the end result?
Yes, it would be
Mm,
different.
well, I mean,
A
to be
direct,
honest, yeah,
uh,
go ahead, go ahead. It's fine.
I would say like a
Go ahead.
direct, I mean, okay, so like a direct cash infusion is literal capital that you can use and move, right? But when it comes to a tax write-off, you really don't get that right away. That comes at like the end of the year. It comes at like at the end of the quarter or whatever that like the taxes like apply to, or like
Wait, but
the
you
end of
can
the week
predict
in
it
certain
every.
taxes. So
But you
No,
can
no.
predict that every
no,
year. Like you
but
can.
like so
When I
like so like there's a time and there's always like a value to time. You can't just like obviously like somebody's going to value a net 60 over a net 120.
I don't understand your point
Okay,
because
hold on.
Somebody
I'll try
somebody's
to.
gonna somebody's gonna value, like, let's say if I give you, like, if you hand out a bill, right? Like I show you two clients, okay? They're known to pay their bills, okay? But they usually
yes.
pay at the end of the term of what the bill says. So the bill would be like, you have two options, okay? One of the clients says we must have the option for net 60, which means that you have to wait 60 days for you to receive a check to get money. Okay? And then the other one says, well, no, the only option that we have is a net 120. So let's say if you can only pick one or two of these clients, which one would you pick?
I'm gonna be honest. I actually wasn't listening to what you were saying.
Okay.
Because
All right. All right. All right. So
I could possibly explain it to him, in
okay.
a
Okay.
simpler way, like in an actual way that he understands. So basically,
You're
from an
breaking up a
accountant's
lot, dude.
standpoint, yeah. Sorry, hold on. I'll fix it right now.
sorry, I was eating. I don't know what the English word for it is. Not grape, but not grape. Orange. I was eating an orange. My bad. Yeah.
Okay, is it good now? Is it good?
You
Yeah, it's good.
sound okay right now, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I
Nope,
think
you're
what
bad
you-
again.
Oh.
All right. Okay, so do you understand what net 60 means? Do you know what that means? Okay,
No,
so
I don't.
like in accounting, when you have like a bill that gets sent out, like a like a specific, let's say you bill for services, right? Some companies, when you go to bill them, they actually request for very,
Okay,
very
I get it. I
specific
get it.
terms and conditions. One of them being like net 60. Okay, a net 60 is where it means that they can go 60 days
First,
without
move
paying
on.
a
I've already
penny
read
on
it.
that bill. What?
Yeah, first, I read it, so we can move on.
Okay,
What's
all right. So the question is, which one would you pick? Which one would you prefer as a company? Let's say you can only keep one or the other in these companies. Okay, the company that does a net 60 or the company that does a net 120.
It depends. Okay, so I think I would say I would prefer to have the cash on hand, but one second, because I understand the point that you're making.
Yeah,
Even with
well, like there's a value to having the cash right away. Is
yes, but
the
even in
answer?
terms of federal subsidies, you don't like receive the money as needed, right?
Yes,
There are
you do.
specific.
That's
There are
literally what an actual subsidy will do.
from my understanding, there are specific time periods through which you're able to receive it. You have to make the application. They have to review. They have to review the application, and then they provide you with the funding.
Okay, but
Right?
it's still like liquid capital that gets thrown your way,
What?
regardless of the process.
Yes, but you have.
There's a problem in your argument because the net days are not between you and the government. They're not between the company and the
No,
government.
I'm
They're
not talking about.
between
I'm not talking
companies.
about. No. I'm not talking about the
They're
government. I'm
between
not talking
companies.
about the government offering a net 60. That's not my point. My point is there's an inherent value to getting your money right away as opposed to not getting your money.
But I'm saying that I don't really think that these businesses don't have their money right away because they have the ability to generally predict how much money that they're going to need to write off, how much money they're able to write off, and they're
True.
able to utilize their capital accordingly. I don't think we disagree that much. I don't really think I don't really see that much of a difference. Maybe for small businesses who don't really have access to the resources in terms of accounting and stuff like that to make reliable predictions. But I feel like for in general, they do have the ability to do that.
Wait.
Yeah, yeah. All companies make provisions. They all make provisions of whether it be taxes or losses or lawsuits or anything, truly anything that just
You're
make
breaking
them
up
lose
again.
money. Oh.
Sorry. Just letting you know.
I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, because he's probably
His side is
making.
so sad.
Yeah, he's like,
He's like,
oh,
oh.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I guess I don't know. This discussion's pretty boring. We can go after something that's a little more fun. How do you feel about abortion?
It's something that I am uncertain about.
Okay, is there anything that you're super passionate about that you confirm is you know it's true?
Can I add something to this?
Yeah, sure.
Alright.
Yeah.
I feel like as men not having wombs, we shouldn't
True.
have a say in abortion. Can I?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're saying that we just shouldn't have say anything about abortions at all?
Yeah. If you
Sounds
don't
like
have a womb, you're incapable of carrying a baby. If you're incapable of carrying a baby, you stand nothing to basically gain from this except control over people whose bodies you should have no say in controlling. So,
But isn't that kind of our kid as well? Like if we inseminate them, don't we have some?
Yeah, I mean you have a little bit of say, right?
Sure, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's not really up to you if the person who's getting pregnant gets pregnant. I mean, sure, you inject them with what is presumably fertile sperm, but
I mean, but wouldn't you say
they become pregnant.
wouldn't you say when the baby does come out, right? Like that's kind of your kid as well, even though it came
It's
from.
completely different. That's 9 months later.
No. That's not the point that I'm making. I'm saying that when the baby does come out, eventually, right? Like you have some sort of right to it as a father as well. And couldn't that similar? Like why does the fact that when it comes out, then suddenly you get rights as a father versus?
I wouldn't say you have much of a right as much as you have what's considered by most people on the planet as a responsibility. With that said, there's tons of people, tons of men who give up on being dads. They completely block out the mother because they didn't agree with pregnancy at all.
Wait, I'm confused. So if you could just address my point, what is the distinction? So you're saying that even when the baby's out of like the womb or whatever, the
Mm.
fathers don't have a right over the lives. It's still tied to the mother. Is that what you're saying?
I said I wouldn't call it as much as a right as it is a responsibility.
So okay, so the fathers don't have any responsibility toward the fetus or the baby when it's out. Is that what you're saying?
They don't have a what?
Because you said you prefer to
Sorry,
use the
one more.
term. You said you prefer to use the term responsibility.
Yeah.
So
As opposed to a right when the thing is born. Yes.
oh, okay. So it's a right when they're in the fetus, when they're a fetus, but it's a responsibility when they're born.
They don't have a right to the thing while it's in fetus.
No, I'm asking for clarification regarding terminology because I'm
Okay, then be precise.
I'm trying to, dude.
Okay.
Okay. So
Oh my goodness.
okay.
I honestly thought that what you were saying was very reasonable, but this guy's like he's like got his fists up, like ready to ready to really wants to go at it.
I mean, a fetus and a baby are two completely different things. One has been born. One has been born and is completely self-sustainable in most cases.
I completely agree
Yeah.
that they're completely different things. I'm
He's
saying,
just clarifying. That's the thing.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
You met his clarifications with combative, like being combative. Like you see what I'm saying?
No, it's fine.
It's just no. It's funny. It's not fine. It's funny. Like I was like, what the fuck happened there? That was weird.
But go on, please clarify.
Yeah. So, because I'm just a little bit confused. So you're saying, do women have a right to their child when it's out, or do they also have a responsibility?
They have both.
Huh. Interesting. So
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. I've never really encountered this argument before. So
What argument?
well, I mean, just not argument, but this like stance, so to speak. So it's particularly interesting with me. So you don't mind if I ask you a couple more questions?
Yeah. Of course.
Okay.
Go on.
Yeah. So what is the reasoning associated with why the woman has a right to the both? I assume both the fetus and the child.
Mm-hmm.
What is the reasoning associated with that? Like what principle?
Very simple. It's very simple, and it's basically tied in biology.
Mhm.
So which one would you want to know about, pre-birth or post-birth?
Sure. Let's start with pre-birth.
Okay, sure. So
I'm sorry. I don't hear you. You might
Oh.
be breaking up.
Yeah, he's like, okay, so, and then you just went quiet.
yeah, taking a bit of time because I think in a different language. English is my third one,
Oh
by the
no,
way.
I'm sorry. You can take your time. I thought.
Go
you
ahead.
broke
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
We're just making sure you're not cutting out.
Yeah. So
And I completely understand. I speak
So-
Farsi. That's my first language.
yeah. So basically, my view, my perspective on it is that the woman who's carrying the child, she's basically putting her body on the line, to because carrying a child and giving birth, it causes irreversible health effects, like
Mhm.
negative health effects. So that's basically where my tie-in with the person who's carrying the child, trumps basically, or basically takes, like, how to put this, basically prioritizes their responsibility when it comes to the whole thing. And it is also tied in with how I feel regarding supporting basically pro-choice. I am completely pro-choice. Not that it matters at all because I don't have a womb anyway.
So okay. Sorry. First Amendment. My bad. Go ahead.
on an individual level, I'm very pro life, but on a government level, I am very pro choice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand what you're saying. Um, I I don't like I said previously. I don't know fully where I stand on this issue. Um, I do somewhat I am somewhat sympathetic to the argument that because the woman puts her body on the line uh, for like a for this, then she should have a greater amount of right associated
Exactly.
uh, with this. But I am somewhat uncomfortable with the idea that the man would not have any input. But I understand it. Like I get where you're coming from. I don't mind that maybe pre-birth, but post-birth, the idea that the man has no right to the child, it seems odd to me. But
Saying
anyway,
like
let's
post birth?
yeah, that's what he
We're
said.
talk-
He said post birth. He said the man has no right to the child. He has a responsibility though.
I mean, you don't really have a right to the child. It's more of a privilege, really. I mean, if you decide post birth to step up and actually be a dad, which, and fortunately, in the majority of cases, that seems to be the case. Then that's good. That's all fine and dandy. But like we have the problem where fathers decide to just run away and fucking yeet out of the fucking way of the responsibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems odd to me that we're ascribing like, the rights in accordance to how much you have to like suffer to get there, right? Like, do we do the same thing? Like, do we have to like, for example, African Americans?
Hmm?
Perhaps they have a far great. This is a terrible example, but I'm going to use it anyway. African Americans, they fought, and women as well, have fought extremely hard for the right to vote in comparison to white propertied men, right?
Hmm.
Um, does that give them more of a right necessarily for the right for voting than someone like a white propertied man, right? It just seems odd. Like that's the criteria through which you're judging the quote unquote
I don't get it. I
right,
don't
right.
get the comparison here.
Well, no, it's the comparison is more to illustrate the idea that I find it odd that the amount of suffering or strife that you undergo through is linked to your right to have that, right?
I still don't get you.
First,
Are you saying that in order to have rights, you have to suffer and struggle for them?
No.
Who's that voice?
I'm sorry, he broke up. What'd you say, Tommy?
Was someone saying that in order to have rights, you have to struggle and suffer for them?
Hey,
Well,
I
no,
should
well,
let you know right now that this is being recorded, just so you're aware.
that's
Okay.
fine. I don't mind. So I'm just is that what you're like? Because that's the principle which you seem to be utilizing here
That
with
somebody has to suffer for it?
no, like that's what you're utilizing here. Like that's why they are granted this right, because they face the most danger for it, right?
Well, that and the fact that they're actually the one carrying it.
okay.
I mean, if men carried the fetus, then it would be completely the opposite.
So your criteria is that so essentially, but the fact that so if they carried it, but there was no health risks associated with that, then or hurt associated with it, then would that that right still lie with the mother?
Yeah, obviously.
So okay, so
body.
it's the carrying that is the important
Yeah,
factor,
and-
not the pain associated with it.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
the
interesting.
the pain has nothing to do with it. It's just a
No.
very important point. Where it. How do you put it? It's a point of leverage because there is always the risk associated with pregnancy.
Yeah, I get it.
And
It's kind
of course,
and of course,
it's not the and of course it's not the pain that's associated with it. It's the
What is this
the
debate?
bodily damage afterwards.
Abortion debate. Well, it's not
Yeah.
even about the damage or the pain. It's just about
I'm sorry, he broke up.
Hello?
demand you.
Hello?
Someone's trying to demand you, be occupied by a fetus or carry a child to term, when you're not voluntarily wanting to do so. So
But
I
like,
can
don't you have
I
like
can use
don't you have like a motherly like obligation? Like if that's something that's within you, like that's literally
Stop killing the
reliant on
babies.
you. Are you not? Is it not then your responsibility, like biologically? Can you just
What?
say, "Oh, I didn't want it, so like I can like kill it"? Like,
Why would you do that? It's a waste of life.
what do you mean?
It
So
is a
kill
waste of
it?
life to kill a baby.
I don't like the trolls that came in here.
I'm
I'm
serious.
not trolling.
No, he's serious.
All right.
He's not.
Okay. Here, I'll give you my like. We'll start over the debate because I feel like this is going all over the place. But okay. I believe at a personal level that I am ultimately responsible if I make someone pregnant. But then at the same time, I cannot expect my government to abide by the same moral system that I would have by like force. Does that make sense?
I mean, I get.
Wait, what?
Okay.
Wait,
Okay.
the government should abide to the same moral.
No,
I mean,
absolutely not.
if-
Absolutely
Yes.
not. I will tell,
Hold on.
and I will fight that to the death.
Hold
I will
on,
fight that to the death.
Hold on. So no, let me just try to get. So you cannot kill a person, but the government is allowed to do that.
I mean,
Is that
if
what
it's-
you mean by? Is that what you mean?
No.
Well, well then, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so like I abide by a certain like moral system and structure, right? Like I abide by there's like a specific way that I like to live my life, right? So I have like a certain amount of morals and values that I ascribe to my own life.
Yeah.
So
We all
these
do,
more,
on a
yeah, everybody does.
individualistic
Everybody
level.
does. Now the question is whether or not that person then has a right to impose those values onto other people and force it onto other people.
No, obviously not. I agree.
Okay, so based on that, then there can be absolutely no government merit whatsoever to the existence of making abortion laws illegal.
So first, I actually agree with.
No,
Wait,
not
one second. Adam.
not
Can I just speak
exactly, because
very quickly?
yeah, go ahead. My bad.
Yeah. I actually agree with your argument, perhaps on slightly different grounds. But let me just play devil's advocate here, just to see how you respond, right? Isn't that the whole point of democracy? Because you're using terms like force, right? The whole point of democracy is when you vote in accordance to your beliefs, your principles, what you think is best for the country, right? And if you do that, and the majority of individuals vote in favor of, let's say, pro-life, like you, right? Is that necessarily bad?
Yes, because it revokes the autonomy of individuals.
Okay,
so like this is the same reason why you cannot have Sharia law. This is the same exact reason. So like Sharia law would have like a certain type of dictate that okay, this is exactly how you live your life. It literally tells you exactly how you live your life. Otherwise, stoning and all this bad stuff, right? So like they can't enforce their religion. They can't impose their religion onto other people. So what gives Christians the right to impose their religion on other people?
Okay, hold on. Let me explain something. Just legislation not nullify the rule of law, and by the rule of law, I'm talking about. Okay, just because your party says we're gonna pass on this legislation that goes accordingly with Christian moral values, if it goes against the Constitution, it should not go on to become an actual law. No law should go against the rule of law, and the rule of law is supreme in any country.
Excuse me, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Can I ask a question, please?
Go ahead.
Yeah, yes.
You wouldn't mind if they made it illegal to have an abortion, right?
So, like, I would absolutely mind if it was illegal to have an abortion.
Why?
Because I don't think it's up to the government to make that decision. I think it's up to people to make that decision.
Okay, well, I mean,
you're supporting the murder of babies?
What if the government makes it illegal to kill other people? Do you think it's not their duty?
You're breaking up a lot. You are breaking up so much.
Chinese microphone, sir.
Yeah. So First Amendment. I guess the.
Or it's not the microphone. It's the
let me try to. Let me try to drive to the heart of this conversation, right? Which is the question of, I do believe that in a democracy, we quite often make decisions from a normative perspective, right? Unless you may disagree. Like, for example, the idea that we should not allow murder to exist in the society, right? That's
Correct.
from a normative belief. Like, do you believe that the only like legitimate like laws or legislation that is drawn from from a normative perspective is only those that can be drawn from a secular perspective, or can they each individual be drawn from their own moral systems and then they make decisions based off that?
Okay, there are certain instances where it's not really becomes a subjective like sense of morality.
Excuse me, why is there a woman in here?
Whoa.
Why are you guys simping? Huh?
Oh my goodness.
Admiral, get the fuck out of here, bitch. Why are you not in the fucking kitchen, whore?
Jesus.
Oh, it's a guy. My bad. Sorry. Sorry. I was just patrolling these thoughts.
Yo, dude, that's my girl, by the way.
Oh, okay. Hey, Patty, how about you get the fuck out, bitch?
All right. Anyway.
Hey, First Amendment. Can I just say something?
Yo.
Sure.
The First
I
Amendment is
wouldn't mind
gay.
enforcing the law of abortion being illegal.
Based? Well, then you're gonna have to go. You're gonna have
The
to
problem
go
is
after...
the problem is then you would have to then justify the existence of religion to be able to use religion in government to be able to coerce other people towards your religion. It is a literal there's a reason why we have a separation of church and state. It literally makes the most corrupt thing ever that causes nothing but destruction. So the only thing that you can do is that you have people's sense of morality, but that you cannot necessarily force your sense of morality onto other people.
I mean, I'm just enforcing the law, man.
What?
I mean, what
I'm
I don't
enforcing
understand.
the law, man.
So once again, I'm playing devil's advocate here, right? But first, I don't understand. So for some things in legislation, you seem to be fine with enforcing your own personal moral like beliefs, like for example, like not killing, right?
Yeah.
Or not murdering someone, right? But on others, you seem to be hesitant. What I'm trying to figure out is what is the principle that separates the two?
Because there are instances of what I would call objective morality that I've talked with other people
Not true.
about.
There's no such thing as objective morality.
I can give you examples of objective morality.
Go ahead.
So, let's not get distracted. Okay, so is that the reason why you believe that there are some things that are objective, therefore universal, and therefore we can all agree upon?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so did you want to hear about objective morality or no? Like that there actually exists objective morality?
I mean, I've heard all the arguments, to be honest.
Oh, yeah?
This is
Go ahead.
90% semantics, but it's always interesting to hear what people mean by it.
Okay, all right. So this is how it works. Like basically, the one thing that I like noticed in like society overall is there seems to be some level of kind of like cohesion in this situation, and it's like usually within their own tribe. There are like rules that they're kind of like these unspoken rules, or they're spoken at some point, but it's generally perceived as like a thing that's bad. But what I find weird is that these specific like rules that get unspoken but are just like perceived as like the reality, it seems to span across different cultures, which is really interesting. If you would think that, and I would say most moralities is extremely subjective, but there are certain instances of objective morality, but like 99.9% of it is not objective at all. So the only instances where it becomes like more objective are the four rules that I could find. I know that there could be more, I don't know. But the one is do not lie, do not cheat, do not kill, do not steal. So like these four tenets, no matter what culture you go to, if you're talking, hold on, please let me finish. So when you're talking about like within your own tribe, specifically in your own tribe, and there are no additional variables being like inhibited, like for example, what if this guy killed a bunch of people, so like the village kills them and he's of the tribe? No, you just added a variable to it. The point being is that there's like a blanket kind of law that is there. It is unspoken, but it is there. So like, it doesn't matter what culture you. Well, it doesn't matter what. Let me finish, please. Let me finish. Please, please let me finish. Please let me finish. Please let me finish. Okay, generally speaking, on any culture that is effectively alive today, nobody looks well on you stealing. Nobody looks well on you killing, cheating, or whatever. And there are cultures that have Please let me finish, please. However, please understand that there are instances of variables that it changes pretty radically, but it's just like an overall, like you generally teach your children this. And the reason why is because over hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, we as tribes needed to be able to have some semblance of cohesion. We needed to have a semblance of consistency. Without this consistency, our very survival was at stake as a result. So what you generally do is they would weed out the people who would break these tenets among their own tribe. This is why we would kill somebody who kills other people. This is why we stop people who steal from other people. And it doesn't matter what culture. You can go, for example, a culture in India, a culture in China, a culture in Europe. For some reason, they all seem to agree, yep, stealing is wrong. I don't like to steal. So hold on. Finally, hold on. Finally, the final part is being that there exists like this kind of weeding out of what they consider an unsociable behavior, a non-social thing. That means we as social creatures have like some sort of a genetic component that ties us to humanity, to having a now there's a possibility that genetically, right?
Wait, first, let me address this now because
I'm almost done, please. So being that we have like that there exists this genetic component that changes like and it could, you have people, for example, where it like, you know, maybe they're like born with a lower prefrontal lobe, you know, that kind of situation. They cannot assess consequence and they may become more violent as a result. But the point being is that it evolutionarily, we have weeded out this type of thing for the most part, but that doesn't mean that like genetic things can't happen. But since it's a genetic component, that means it is a physical object that can be weighed.
No.
Meaning objective morality.
That's stupid as
It's wrong on so many levels.
Oh my
It's
god.
so
So bad.
thoughts
wait. So first,
are physical things.
God
They're
damn.
electrical patterns in your brain. They always have mass, regardless.
You put me
But
in
Yeah,
this
the
correct.
whole
fire.
thing was downright obscene. It made no fucking sense. And let me tell you what. The thing you were doing, where you were ignoring all the particulars, that breaks everything. How do we tell the difference between self-defense and murder? There aren't laws against self-defense, there are laws against murder. And I agree, every society outlaws murder. But what they consider murder is wildly different. That's why it's not objective. There's intersubjective agreement within societies.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
So like
about
if you,
some
okay,
things.
so I clearly stipulated that there are instances where that when you introduce variables, this falls apart. Absolutely. 100%.
But
I agree with you.
That's why it's not objective at all. There is no it's wrong to kill.
Okay.
There's plenty of situations in which it's fine to kill.
Okay, but listen, if within a culture, if without any variables concerned, and they all consider that it's generally wrong to kill,
No one
therefore,
Not true. Not
that's
true.
not a thing in any
No,
culture.
that's not true.
Not true. That's not true.
Okay,
at all.
show me.
It's okay. It's okay to kill. It's wrong to murder.
Wait, bring
Exactly.
up God is bring
Wait,
up
yeah,
God
it's
is-
true.
Until
Yeah.
you bring in those particulars,
kill
it's
shit all the
fine to
time.
kill people.
Wait, dude, this is simple, right? Just bring up God, like just invoke the word of God, right? And then just be done.
Please stop. Not again.
You forgot that you were arguing from an actually subjective standpoint because you're arguing as a human being and you're
Yeah.
arguing as human
That's-
beings.
yeah, I would say
putting human
most
beings in the
instances,
center.
I would say
That
most
doesn't-
instances,
That doesn't mean. That doesn't
One
mean
at a time.
objective morality. It just means it's-
Also, you're breaking up.
Admiral, that's not what we mean by the word objective. It's just fucking semantics, mate.
so being that there is a survival component that is pushed in, and if there's like people who basically do not survive because they like lacked empathy, or that they lacked like, you know, they basically would kill unjustifiably, people
Well, that's
generally
the
didn't
point.
look on it in a favorable way. Being that they
Yeah,
didn't look on it.
if you fail to uphold the morality of the society you're born into, you get
Mhm.
executed, regardless of what morality that society has. Yes.
Wrong.
Okay, so there's like a semblance of like, I would call it like justice maybe, but it's probably much more like primal, because let's say if you like went up to a monkey, right, and the monkey is holding a banana, and then you decided to steal the banana from the monkey, so the monkey's going to flip the fuck out as soon as you start, you take the banana. They're going to flip out, and they're going to wave their hands in the air. They may fight you. Yeah, they may even attack you for, so like there's an inherent like reaction to it, and I would call it justice, but it's really probably closer to like the monkey
that's
wanting
loss
to
aversion.
wanting it comes down to like survival, just basic survival. When you are
That's
being
loss
deprived of nutrition, that of course comes into play, that you will fight for your very survival. So like a person killing, a person cheating, stealing, and lying literally is a fight for your very survival, meaning that there is an inherent objectivity because this occurs in nature, where people have, where people have ostracized this type of societies.
Works.
Why not?
So
Objective means that regardless of your opinion, and even if you were to go to anyone else, it's provable without the shadow of a doubt.
Yes, correct.
I can rephrase that.
And the way you're trying to frame it, that's not comparable.
Why not?
You got it a little wrong. It's actually that something objective, right, means that it isn't independent on anyone's personal subjective opinion on it. It's like almost like a fucking law. So like if you were to say
like math, you can't fuck that up.
Yeah, for example, that's like for
Yes.
example, if you said like do not kill anyone, right? This is a fucking objective. That means that in every single circumstance, every single fucking instance in which someone kills, it is objectively wrong, and that isn't fucking true. Because first off, we have self-defense, right? And then we have also necessary killing and necessary murder that occurs.
Yeah, so I acknowledge that, right?
Well, that breaks your entire argument.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, that gets
it literally works within my argument.
No, the moment
First Amender, there is no category if you can't construct it. You have failed to construct a category that's consistent across cultures.
Okay.
When you bring that up, Amender, you're immediately
So-
arguing from a moral relativist position when you're trying to bring up a fucking moral realist position. So you're
Okay.
immediately contradicting yourself. You're trying to use two ideologies that don't work in the same breath.
Okay.
No, he's not necessarily fucking it up. He just happens to be.
Okay.
I think he is fucking it up.
So let me give you an example, okay? Like for example, if we look at lots of different type of scientific studies, for example, like economics. Generally, what we try to do is we try to remove like addition variables from like a set in order to like get down to the very specifics of what is going on. Okay, so when I was thinking about people's morality, for some reason, among cultures, when we tell our children, we tell do not lie, do not cheat, do not kill, do not steal, and there's an overall consensus, and there's even like an inner sense of guilt, regardless of whether or not that somebody had stolen. But well, so regardless of somebody telling you, there is an inherent like sense of empathy. That's not to say that humans don't exist without empathy, just as you have a genetic component that can change the way that your brain thinks. So you could have like a Ted Bundy type still in this type of situation.
You're using three different types of malicious reasoning.
You're trying to use three examples of three different things at the same time and making no sense.
You're using the appeal to emotion fallacy.
No, I am not using an appeal to emotion at all.
You're using the ad populum fallacy, and you're also trying to bring two.
What is ad populum fallacy?
Fallacy.
Just Schrodinger.
Can we please stop
You
using
aren't
big
following
words?
his
I'm black and
argument.
slow.
Appeal to popularity.
No, he's not.
Popularity.
He's
Yes,
not
he
saying
is.
that. No, he's saying
Are you
that
appealing to the majority?
No, he's not. He's saying, when I examine humans, I discover an objective truth about them, and this truth is that they have this genetic thing that makes them do a thing, and that's why it's objective.
There's an objective truth that people do, right? So, do you think that all people don't kill?
No.
and it's not objective.
But
I don't think
okay,
he's saying
please
That
understand
is
it's
true.
not. Okay, no, please understand that when
If
you
I find
introduce
you a
variables
scientist,
into it, the whole thing falls apart. Just as when you look at
That's
like
why it's
economic.
not true.
Okay, hold on. No. That's wrong.
Because when you
Because
put a
then, if that
variable
were the
into it,
case,
it's
then we
not
would just throw
subjective
out.
anymore.
No, then if that were the case, then we would just throw out like economics overall, the entire thing, because like they don't account, for example, marketing.
Amender,
No,
Amender,
listen,
I just had a
they-
conversation.
No, you remove variables in a situation like this to understand like the root of
Build a
something.
better model. But listen, physics is just one long line of people being like, wait, there's a variable we didn't account for. We need to add it in, and then adding it in, and then
No,
refreshing
he's
the
using
model and going.
empiricism. He's using empiricism, so he's already fucking lost here. Real quickly, so do you
No.
take?
How?
No,
What?
I'll explain it. I'll explain
If
it.
we
'Cause I know
consider
this.
empirically
I know
demonstrated
I know
things to be
philosophy better than
objective,
you.
then he's
I know
fine.
philosophy better. I know philosophy better than you, and I'll fucking demonstrate it how I can, right? So it's this. So fucking First Amendment,
Bruh.
Amender, right? Do you take it as an axiom, right, that in fact you should not kill people? Is
I'm
it
trying.
axiomatic?
I'm not sure what that means, so I don't know. I don't know what that means.
An axiom is something that is self-evident, it's self-justifying, and it's independent.
No,
It
no,
is
because
something-
no, because okay, that's not necessarily my argument.
If it's not axiomatic, it can't be objective.
No, you're trying to back me up into a corner here because it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah, well, like, okay, you're saying. Here's the thing. When you introduce variables into it, absolutely, you're right. It's 100% subjective, but without any variable at all, as in A kills B within their own tribe, is generally seen bad thing. But if you introduce variables, it's very different.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
No,
he's not wrong.
Amender, you've lost. This is now
No.
self-refuting. Yeah,
No, it's not. It's not self-refuting.
It's
All
a
he did was make the statement that
because even in a society there is situations where killing can be justified.
Okay.
No, but he
especially
said
for something like
generally
sport.
whenever one person kills another,
That's
it's seen
where
as
it
bad.
falls apart. Because
listen, you're
if there's a
fucking up.
society in which the only killings are those done by the executioner at the behest of the judge, then this would be a society in which his
Amender.
statement is fucking wrong.
No,
His
that's-
statement
But that's
is a
that
non-statement.
you're bringing in variables. I'm saying
Yes.
at a
No,
general
I'm
sense
describing
without a
hypothetical
variable.
societies.
No
The
variable
Why are we
at
even
all.
discussing this
You
very
can't have
specific
no
thing?
variables. Humans
Why are we
exist.
discussing this very
It
specific
doesn't make any
thing?
sense to
Because
say
it's interesting.
no
You're
variables.
trying to
Otherwise,
strong
you
arm
have
the
a
entire of the
situation
narrative
when there's
into
no
one
variables.
small
There's no
fringe
humans.
example that can only work
Fuck.
under very specific circumstances,
Everyone stop.
and completely gloss over the extra details of the overall idea of what you're trying to get across.
Correct. I agree with you. I agree with you. This isn't. I agree that it's not useful it's not useful in a lot of different ways. Okay, like for example, in like a court system. Okay, obviously a court system is going to have a completely different way of looking at it because they're going to see they're going to imply like what are the criteria of. Yeah. So yes, correct. So because they have to account.
So I'm just gonna say my statement. No, Amender, I have to fucking go like right now. So I'm gonna say my quick statement, right? It's this: you're fucking saying something that is objective, right? Relies on no one's perspective. It is what it fucking is. It's self-evident and self-justifying. It proves its goddamn self. The second
call
that
it
you
facts.
say it, the second that you say it, it stops being objective. To someone add something, adds their own personal and fucking interpretation to it, immediately makes it subjective. It makes it relativist. You cannot fucking claim that this is an objective truth when literally everyone has their own subjective fucking opinion on it.
No,
It
they're
doesn't
wrong
make
and
any
I'm right.
fucking sense. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. It's exactly. He's exactly.
Okay,
He's wrong. He shouldn't kill people. And this is the person says, "Hey, look, you should fucking murder people. You
You're
should murder all the people."
you're misinterpreting what I'm saying.
Hold on, let me get the MLG air horn. That was fucking based as fuck.
This statement is
You're misinterpreting what I am saying entirely.
Wait, first, can I
I did not listen to a word he said. I'm not gonna lie.
Can I
He's
clarify here?
gone.
It was stupid as fuck because you can have
Wait,
objective things
can
depend
I-
on other objective things. He just missed the conversation entirely.
Wait, so first, can I ask
I
you?
don't know what the hell he was talking about.
Wait, first, can I ask you? So
Me?
for me personally, no, I'll second first. Sorry, Frog.
What?
So,
Alright.
so from my understanding, like at least what I believe, right, is that you can have a. What I think you are saying is that you believe in a subjective morality based off of generally universal values,
That's
through which you generate a sort of social contract with society. Is that what you're saying?
That is based.
No, I'm talking. No, I'm saying that there is kind of like an unspoken truth of objective morality, being that
No, there's
between.
no such thing.
True.
But okay, you could say there's no such thing, but don't fucking interrupt me and just let me say some stupid shit. It's fine. So.
All right, say some stupid shit.
Okay, so the point being is that if you look across different cultures, no matter what culture you go to, they generally, when they're among their own tribe, they generally look at lying, cheating, killing, and stealing as inherently wrong. It is only until that you bring in components into this, like for example, oh, that person is a murderer, that they where they try to preserve their objective, like survival. It's really just like for survival. So, but the point being,
But First Amender, how can I have a situation with no variables? That doesn't make any sense.
Wait, before you even get to that, right?
Because like to bring down to the initial truth of it, you bring in absolutely no variables to get to the crux of it.
How do I kill someone with no
Because
variables?
you look at A kills B in your tribe. No variables. So generally people regard it.
No culture has any standing towards this at all. No culture has any standing toward it. No.
Okay, so when let's say that one culture, like when they look at a person who killed another person, do they consider it to be good or bad?
At this point,
with no variables.
Neutral. They don't know yet. You haven't given them enough information. No society
Okay.
would make any determination at this point.
Yes, they would actually.
Yes, they would. If a guy, okay.
Almost all societies have executions, mate. Of course they wouldn't determine.
That's a variable.
Yeah, it's a
Yes, exactly. So
you can't. You do have a brain. You have a brain. Human life is finite.
Please shut up. Andrew, shut up.
We
Shut
have
up.
included that variable. They would not judge the killing as wrong, because if they judged it as wrong,
Yes, because they are literally killing for their very survival.
Executioners justified killings in the group.
We're
and
not
that would
talking
be
about
stupid.
executioners. We're talking about a random murder in society. It can be a fucking.
Then it's a fuck. Then say that.
stepson,
If we're then
or
say
it can be a
then say
Yeah, so that's why I said
executioner, or it can
societies
be
are against
like an invading
murder.
army.
No, we're not talking about murder. He just said person A kills person B. We don't
Yeah,
know
he's
the
trying to say
context.
any person. It doesn't matter what the circumstances.
yeah.
Yes, and I'm saying because we haven't talked about those circumstances, no society has any moral compunction about this in the slightest. Every society is
Really?
morally neutral until you start bringing in those variables.
Okay,
That's
so
not
like,
true.
okay. All right. Why is it that
Maybe
a person has let's say they hear in the news, oh, this wife was allegedly killed by her husband, and they use the word alleged because they can't prove it, right?
Yeah.
But naturally, you in your body have an aversion to the thought of a man killing a woman, or yes, it's considered murder, and so the consciousness towards it. Okay, hold on. Please let me finish. Please let me finish. The consciousness
You're
towards.
describing that variables do in fact influence how we perceive killings. I agree. That's my fucking point.
Yes.
Yeah, but in that situation,
I'm just saying that natural aversion. It's because it's alleged. You cannot prove it. You really don't have all of the variables involved.
No.
You've already a ton of variables that point to this being a murder instead of a justified execution.
Yes, because
That's
I'm
what's
trying
happening
to illustrate it in a
here.
way
So
that you
that's
understand.
already murdered your point. This is
No,
completely
I'm trying to illustrate it in a way that you understand by introducing a very tiny amount of variables. Let's say man kills man, man kills woman, woman kills man. It doesn't matter. It's literally seen like you have a natural aversion to it. If you have a natural
no one does.
no one has a natural aversion to that? Are you serious?
No, of course not.
So like when O.J. Simpson like kills like a bunch of people, right? Like you wouldn't have a natural aversion to that?
That's because we think you fucking murdered them.
But you don't know that. You don't know that.
And we don't need to know it to be averse to something.
Okay,
that we
but
think is true.
there's a natural aversion to it is my point. If there's a natural aversion, there's some sort of there's almost like a component that's in there that makes humans resist this sort of thing. Meaning that there's an example of objective morality.
No,
that's not objective.
Why not?
Because if there's one, and I mean one person on the face of the earth who disagrees with the overall collective majority, then it's not universal. And we know for a fact there are people who are suicidal. We know for a fact there are people who are homicidal.
Yes.
And because these people exist, your narrative falls apart.
Okay, you are right. Correct.
Even in
yes.
these extreme
hold on.
examples that you're
Hold
trying
on.
to set up.
Please, you are right. As well, if you understand that there exists like homicidal people, right? When we analyze, types of like murderers and things like that, they generally have like a smaller frontal lobe, or they have like some sort of issue with their brain, okay, from a psychological level, from a physical level. The point being is that I can't account for, of course, a genetic randomness that exists in every single human that is ever born. Okay, obviously, no, you can't. I can't account for that because it's impossible.
Otherwise, it's not objective.
Okay,
you have
but
to say, here's the category of human, and within the category of human, X, Y, Z is objectively the case. Because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be in the category.
Would you say a murderer or like a serial killer is going to be more popular with the ladies or less popular with the ladies?
Doesn't matter.
What does that have to do with?
I don't know. That varies by the serial killer.
On that?
The point being is that they would have a less of a chance of actually spreading their gene on forward. They're going to go with somebody who's going to be.
No, there's no reason.
It does. It does.
Less
because again, liking someone is completely subjective. There's no objective attractiveness meter.
Yes, there is. There is.
Wait.
There is.
Play the game.
This is why fucking guys tend to like fucking they like big hipped women and like big boobed women. This is why. Yes, there are people who have different. There are people who have different
First, even if we first of all, right? First of all, what humanity seems to be saying is that there is no neutral statement without variables when it comes to the idea of whether or not it's okay to kill, right? In every such statement, there's always going to be variables, and it's dependent on those variables that societies make the determination of whether or not killing is okay, right? The second point I want to make is that even if we agree with your point that it's universal that killing was wrong or whatever, right? Every single person in society believes that, and even if that was true, that does not in any way imply that it is moral or that it is right or wrong, just that it's universal.
It would be an objectively held thing.
Okay, I mean, I could probably concede to the fact that there is probably that it may not necessarily be morality so much as it is like a survival mechanic, maybe.
Well, no, that if it's people's beliefs about what's right and wrong, that's morality. If it's universal, it's objective. So it would be objective
well, for
morality.
most instances, in fact, I would tell you like 99.9% of morality is entirely subjective. But there are instances where it's generally perceived as a bad thing if these things happen. However, if you introduce variables into it, it of course completely falls apart, and I agree with you. This is why I'm saying 99.9% of it is completely subjective. But there's a natural aversion. There's like an aversion to like somebody who lies, cheats, kills, steals. Regardless, like that's just how it is seen as. Now, if of course, obviously, if there's an executioner, that's a variable. That's a completely different thing. It doesn't work that way.
Not having an executioner is also a variable, and until that variable is decided, society doesn't decide one way or the other if this is a good or bad thing. That's the problem.
But then
there is no neutral statement. There is no variables. This isn't a thing. There are always variables.
Okay, I agree with you. And this can't really be applied in most things.
Then why are we arguing?
What? Because people, I think like somebody came at me with like an abortion thing because I think like they were talking about how. Yeah, it started with abortion.
Oh, it always starts with.
How the fuck
it
did it
always
start
starts with fucking abortion,
Right?
or the Jews or the blacks.
Hold on, no. I was actually.
Jesus, fuck.
1 second. I was actually the one who brought this up because I believe First Amendment was making the argument that he doesn't feel that essentially making the argument that he doesn't feel it's okay to like vote in accordance to his moral system because he wouldn't want to impose his moral system on others. And I was questioning him, and I was like, why for some instances you're fine with imposing your moral system, which like do not kill, but for other things you are nervous about that. And that's what I was asking originally.
No, he's just imposing his moral system of not things.
Say what?
That's the level he's functioning at.
What?
Sorry?
You don't want to impose your morality on other people, and you're acting accordingly. There's no complication here.
Well, so people said, well, why? Why is it that you can, that government, it was like saying like government should have a right to impose like certain moral standards. And I said, yes, you're right in certain, and I said, yes, you're right in certain instances. Like, for example, do not